In this video, we are going to compare two CNC machines that are currently on the market today. We're going to talk about speed, how rigid they are, the ease of assembly, how their support works, and probably what's most important to a lot of you are cost. Let's get into it. Okay, so these tests are not going to be super scientific. It's just basically operations and what I think about them, and in the end I'll tell you who I think each one of these are for. First of all, let me just start out by saying I don't even think these two machines are in the same category, and I'll explain more on that later. Full disclosure, the Onefinity was given to me by Onefinity, but I am under no obligation whatsoever to say anything one way or the other about either of these machines. I just hadn't seen this video comparing the two out there, so I thought I would do it for you guys. Okay, so let's get started. The first test I'm gonna do, or the first thing I'm gonna do, is I'm actually going to carve this. I have a couple of different tool paths, a pocketing tool path for each one, and then just a profile tool path on the line for each one of these. Both machines were ran at the same feeds and speeds. I didn't want to change that in any way, even though one machine is a little capable, or more capable of going faster than the other one. I didn't want to introduce that. So basically the pocket's going to be just a normal pocket at 2 or 3, I think it was 3 passes, going down to a 1/2 inch. All of these tool paths are going down to a 1/2 inch. The lines are actually going to be a couple of different speeds. The first speed is going to be 120 inches a minute for both machines. The second speed is going to be 160 inches a minute for both machines. All right, so here goes the first test. That I am using some cool low pro clamps by Bo. I've been using these for a few months now and they're absolutely awesome. Awesome, that's line 1. Let's do line 2. Okay, so that's how the 5 Pro did. You saw the little issue there with losing the steps. That has a lot to do with just the rigidity and power of the motor. So let's get into the same test with the Onefinity. The only difference is I went ahead and ran these back to back. So it'll do the pocket, it'll do line 1, then it'll come back and do line 2. Both of these operate similarly, but they do have a difference as far as which direction the tool paths go, as in the Shapeoko went down and then came back. The Onefinity is going to go down, it's going to lift up, come back to the start, and go down again. Probably my mess up, but anyway, same concept. Let's get into that one. Okay, there you go. You see it did this tool path very well. It made it through at 120, 160 inches a minute. No issues whatsoever. Let me explain what I have on these machines. So on the 5 Pro, I do not have their 80 millimeter spindle. I do have an aftermarket spindle, and I'll talk about that again here in just a minute. The Onefinity, I do have what is their supported spindle now currently. That's the red line. They're both 80 millimeters. They're both 220 volt, both 2.2 kilowatts. So as spindles go, they are equal as far as that goes. So one thing about this machine, as far as how it runs, both the X, Y, and the Z are all run off of ball screws. So it's pretty smooth operation. Much better than belt driven. I originally had a belt driven machine when I first started, so happy about that. I was able to run my water cool lines inside of my drag chain. They fit with the factory drag chain. That was pretty cool. Didn't have to modify that in any way. The Onefinity also uses ball screw for your X, Y, and Z axis as well. So very similar in that regard. And the Onefinity does come with a controller here if you so choose, the Masso, where you don't have to provide your own. Okay, for the next carving, I just wanted to do a 3D carving. Yes, I do want to look a little bit at speed, even though again, I set these at the same inches per minute, but here's where you're gonna see a little bit of a difference. With each of these, I carved the same exact 3D model. This is just a crude, quick 3D model. I wanted something that could be done fairly quickly. So the difference you're gonna see in these, and we'll see if we can't run them side by side a little bit, but it's just a quick speed through of them. But the thing that I noticed the most right off the bat is the Onefinity finished this in nearly half the time as the Shapeoko did. And it didn't dawn on me until afterwards. I thought, man, did I mess the program up? But no, I didn't. It has a lot to do with the acceleration and the rapids in between each of the movements. Where the Shapeoko is limited to 200 inches per minute. That goes back to the speed I was talking about a few minutes ago. The Onefinity has a rapid rate and is a limit of 600 inches per minute. During the transition between the movements, the Shapeoko can only run at 200 inches per minute. The Onefinity will run at 600 inches per minute with a much higher acceleration speed. So there is where it actually took the time down in carving, not the feeds and speeds, which I set. Now I did set these equal. However, looking at it in hindsight, I could have set the Onefinity to a much higher speeds and feeds, especially on the 3D toolpath as far as the finishing goes, because it's not removing hardly any material, so you can go a lot faster. I probably could have run that 300 or 400 inches a minute and been fine, which would have greatly reduced the time on top of that as well. Okay, so we talked about speed. Let's get into the rigidity, ease of assembly, support, and most of all, the cost. First thing I want to talk about, we've already mentioned speed, but is the rigidity. Both of these machines are pretty rigid. I can't complain with either one of them. Now, as you noticed, the rigidity does come into play whenever we had the loss of steps on the motors, but that also has a lot to do with the motor power as well. But as far as rigidity goes, they're both very rigid machines. I'll give them both credit for that. Next, let's talk about ease of assembly. I did not record the assembly process on the Onefinity machine simply because I could not find my footage from the assembly of the Shapeoko machine. I've had it for a couple of years, so it's gone. So anyway, but what I can tell you is by memory, I do know that it took me way less time to assemble the Onefinity machine as it did the Shapeoko machine. Now, having said that, the Shapeoko machine was not at all hard to assemble. It was fairly easy and definitely easier than their previous versions. So kudos to them for improving that. It is much better than it was prior to this version. The Onefinity was really simple. I do have a couple of extra things that I put on mine that's not necessarily something that's going to come, some add-ons, but by far it was a lot easier and a lot quicker to put together the Onefinity machine. Let's talk about support. In the beginning, one of the reasons I went with Carbide 3D was because of their known support that they had. So any dealings I had with support were very good. They responded to me very quickly, and I never had an issue with their support. They do a great job. If you look at their website and look at when their support says they are available, it is 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and I believe that is Pacific Standard Time. So you are limited a little bit as far as support goes there. Now, with Onefinity support, I do know some of their support staff personally, so what I'm telling you I know to be true, even though I haven't had to use their quote support as of yet. I have had to talk to one of the gentlemen a couple of times just because Greg needed to know how to do something that he didn't know how to do already, and it's totally different. But anyway, I digress. So their support is available from also showing 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. I believe that is Eastern time as well. But having spoken with them about this specific topic, I do know that they do monitor their support emails 24/7. So if you do need to reach out to Onefinity support, don't be surprised if you get a response that is actually after hours. That is quite possible according to them. I don't feel that these two machines are in the same category. Typically when you look at CNC machines of this kind, you're looking at a hobbyist CNC machine, which could include many different machines, and then you're looking at what most of us call a prosumer type machine, meaning this one on one hand is mainly for the hobbyist who is going to do stuff to get ready for markets and super small businesses, something where production is not necessarily your forte or anything you really want to do. Where on the prosumer side, you are looking about a little bit higher volume, borderline production, or even production of product. So I look at those as kind of two different things. Now, I have been using the Shapeoko for the last year in what I would call a production shop, and it's served me very well. It's done a good job, and I have been able to fulfill my orders. Everything has come in with no issues whatsoever, for the most part, and some of those issues have been on my side. Having said that, going back to the speed, that does limit the machine as far as how much production you can run. Now, in some instances, it does not, because 200 inches a minute max, 160, that might be all you want to run, either or. But looking at the overall picture, having the ability to run a machine up to 600 inches a minute, 3D carving for example, does increase production time. Now, I've only had the Onefinity for a couple of weeks doing production jobs. I can tell you from my experience with production jobs I have run previously on the 5 Pro, in contrast to running it on the Onefinity, I have already made more money because prices that I quote were based on run times of the machine, so I can actually get those done a decent amount, probably about 30% faster with the Onefinity, so it automatically is making me a little more money, and I look at it more on the prosumer side, so take that for what it's worth. So let's get into the actual cost of the machines. So to get into the Shapeoko that I have, you are looking at your basic model. And when I say basic model on both of these machines, I'm speaking of the setups typically that I have that you're gonna order if you order this 4x4 machine in both companies. So the 5 Pro retail right now, as of the filming of this video, is $3,750. That is your base model. The Onefinity base model is $3,973.75. That is for the Elite Foreman, and that is for the Shapeoko 5 Pro, respectively. We have the same size spindle set up and 80 millimeter. If you look at the Shapeoko and you add their 80 millimeter spindle, that's going to be an additional $1,200. The Redline spindle that is also 80 millimeter, same air-cooled, and these are both air-cooled spindles. I'm not counting the water-cooled that I have. The Redline spindle for the same size, same kilowatts and everything is $811.75. The tool setter, which is the thing that lets you probe your tool each time you make a tool change, that does come on the Shapeoko 5 Pro machine, comes with it. It does not come with the Onefinity, so you can add an additional $74.81 to the Onefinity machine. Neither one of them come with an XYZ probe. You can add both of those if you so choose. For the Onefinity, you're looking at $92.63. For the Shapeoko, you're looking at $120. So before we get to the grand total, let me talk about a couple of additional things. On the Onefinity side, Onefinity also offers their Infinite Possibilities Return Program. I think that's an amazing program. So basically, in a nutshell, I'll leave a link in the description to their website where you can go check that out and get all the details. But basically, you can take a machine you currently have, and if they do an upgrade or they change something or whatever, you can actually order the new thing and return your old thing. And there's a price difference there. You'll have to pay some money, but you get a discounted rate and you can return that thing and upgrade. They're very modular, so you're able to do that. You don't have the same type thing with the Carbide machine. They're not modular, and the way they come is the way they come. One more thing that is a big difference in my opinion is the Shapeoko does now have an 80 millimeter spindle available. They did not whenever I purchased my machine. So therefore, I had the 65 millimeter spindle that they did have at the time, and then I upgraded to an aftermarket 80 millimeter. Now, when I did that, since Shapeoko's control box is proprietary, I was not able to just plug and play another spindle. I actually had to void my warranty by drilling a hole into the case of my control box. I wish that were different, and that's something I think Carbide should do, is make things open source where you could use another spindle without it voiding your warranty or something of that nature. So with the Onefinity is open source. If you have any other spindle, as long as that spindle is compatible with the Masso controller that you have, then you can run that spindle. Now, obviously, that spindle is not supported by Onefinity unless you have the Redline spindle, but I would expect that from any company not to support a third-party spindle. But you still have that option, and it doesn't void your overall warranty of your machine. You still have the structural and mechanical warranty of the machine itself, as long as it's something that the spindle is not causing to mess up. So now for the overall cost. For each machine set up, like I mentioned, with the base model plus the 80 millimeter spindle and not including any extras. And then if you want to hear, I'll give you a few extras at the end how my machine is set up. Stick around. But for the Shapeoko machine, you are looking at a total of $4,950 for this setup. For the Onefinity machine, you are looking at a total of $4,860.31. On the surface, it looks like the Shapeoko is actually lower, but as you dig into it and set things up the same, you're actually going to end up paying less for the Shapeoko machine. So again, who do I think these machines are for? If you are just a hobbyist and occasionally going to shows and selling your product, I think the Shapeoko will do just fine for you. If you are someone who is looking to up their game and maybe get into production, or just want a faster machine, the Onefinity is going to be where I would direct you. Now, having said that, the Onefinity is good on the other side as well. And with it coming in as a lower price point, it's probably gonna be my recommendation at this time for most anybody. So I will leave links to everything in the description if you would like to go check out either one of these machines. If you want to know about my machine, I also have the Stiffy rail, which is a rail that goes across the top, a third rail that gives the gantry a little bit more stability. I also have the QCW table, the tool setter, and the XYZ probe. So to set up just like my machine is right now, you're looking at about just under $5,700. So if that's something that interests you, I definitely recommend the QCW table. You don't have to build your own table or anything like that. So I really appreciate you watching. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comment section below, and we'll catch you next time.